Welcome to another Everyday Reviews video. Today we're having a look at a hot new dash camera from VIOFO. This is the A139 Pro. This is the first true 4K camera supporting 3 channels. Let's get to it. There are a lot of special things that this camera offers. First of all, it is a true 4K camera. So that front camera, you can have 4K. Now the 139 comes in 3 different flavors. You can get it in a 1, 2, or 3 channel setup. We are using the 3 channel setup here. One thing they all share in common, the 139 is the first camera to use the new Sony Starves 2 sensors. So what's the big deal about this sensor? Well, you get less motion blur, you get less low light noise, and a wider dynamic range than the standard Sony Starves sensor. So it is a pretty big deal. Open up the box, and I love how you can not only apply a circular polarizing filter onto the front of the front camera lens, but they include it in the kit. I love that. I love that. It's not an option because it just makes the picture so much more clear. You can get a really, really great picture, especially if, depending on the angle of your windshield, you can cut down a lot of glare with that. The camera has a 140-degree field of view and it can be rotated. You get 2.4 and 5G Wi-Fi with the 139, which you need to set up the camera because there is no screen on here. It can also be used for reviewing clips right on your phone or downloading them to your phone in case you don't want to take the camera off or take that micro SD card into your computer. It's up to you. If you have a lot of clips to do like I have with this video, I just take the card out or just take the whole camera and bring it into the house. But you have something that you want to show a friend or something or send off right away, you can actually download it right from your phone. The main camera is nice and low profile so it can go right against that windshield. And this is the first 3-channel camera that I've tested where the second channel or the interior in-cabin camera is separate from the actual main camera. Most of the time it's a 2-in-1 unit. And the benefit of this, and this is a big benefit, is that you can mount, for instance, the main unit, the main front camera somewhere else. Because sometimes, depending on what kind of car you have, some of them have these large type of consoles by the rear view mirror nowadays because they have a lot of sensors. There's cameras in there for your cruise control. And if you put your camera, if you want it, down in the center, it's actually really kind of obstructing your vision, so you might want to put it off to the side, and that's what I decided to do on this install here on a Mitsubishi Outlander. And then for the in-cabin, I actually decided to go and stick it basically kind of in the center up top on the console. Yeah, so you can put it anywhere, and that's really important, especially these in-cabin cameras. If you are a rideshare driver, a Lyft, Uber, taxi cab driver, these in-cabin cameras are extremely important to help protect you and your customers coming into your vehicle, and having it in a nice, central location is paramount for sure. A couple notes when you're installing your new dash camera, regardless if it's a 139 or any dash cam. First of all, when you place your camera, make sure to test it before you install it. Make sure that all the wires are going to the right places and it's going to actually work first. Number 2 is where you place it. So the first time I installed it, I couldn't believe I made this mistake, but I actually put it a little bit too high and to the right, and it was fine until it rained, which I didn't realize when I installed it because it was dry at the time. And so it was actually in an area where the wiper actually didn't cover. So if it was raining, you would not get it washed off. So I had to move it. Also on this kit, it comes with like a kind of an anti-static little transparent card that you can actually stick onto your windshield, and then you stick this on to that plate there, and it makes it easier to take on and off if you decide to take it off. A lot of times I put these things in and they just stay in, so I'm not really worried about that. But if you do want to use one of those, go by all means do that, but don't locate it so the lens has to look through this transparent piece of plastic. Yes, it is see-through, but hey, you want as little as possible blocking that lens, so just put the mount on there. Next, if you are using a 3-channel, so you're using a rear camera, once again, check where you're gonna put it. Make sure, go in between the lines of if you have defrost lines of your window, and if you have heavy tint or sometimes it's graduated tint, try to put it where it's a little bit lighter in tint than when it's darker. If you don't have a choice, well, just try to make it so it's as clean as possible, so you're not seeing a lot of the lines there. The power cable is a standard USB-C. The head is quite large, and I do really wish that they actually included, it was a 90-degree angle and more flush. So if you want to install this, closer to the headliner, you have a little bit more clearance there. But one cool thing though, and I love this, is for the other cameras, they have went to a 2.8mm super slim coaxial cable, and it's super thin. And the advantage of that is, when I'm doing these installs, I'm fishing the wires through the headliner out to the back, and when you have multi-channels, so you have a power cable, you have, sometimes you're in cabin, in this instance here, but you have your rear camera, and if you don't have a lot of room, then it's really hard to stuff all those cables in. Well, this 2.8mm one is so thin, it's so easy. Really, really a big bonus. This is the first time I've had a camera that had this coaxial, and hopefully in the future, more and more manufacturers will include that instead of these big, thick ones. It just makes it so much easier for the install. I love how they include a trim tool. Not only is it handy for all the trims and getting the wires in, but it was also handy for prying that camera off. That adhesive is super, super strong. So make sure you're sure of where you're gonna put it before you apply it, because it's hard to get off. Powering it, you can do it by your 12-volt outlet, or you can get a hardwire kit, which I do recommend with any dash camera. They are inexpensive. I don't use them too often just because I actually change cars very, very often, so I want something a little bit more portable, so I use a dash camera battery. So either way, hardwire or dash camera battery is going to allow you to use your parking mode. So when you turn the vehicle off and you have that parking mode on, it's going to trigger events. Someone hits you, or when people are coming close to your vehicle, it's going to set it off with your motion there. So I will put a link for the dash cam battery right down below there. Normally, I'm used to using dash cameras with screens, so I wasn't quite sure about this 139, but you know what? It's turned out to be very easy to use. It's very intuitive. There's a voice that comes on. There's a little bit of a chirp, and the voice will tell you how many channels it's recording, and then you have 4 lights.
Recording, 3 channels started. Wi-Fi enabled.
And it's super, super easy. If those lights are blinking, well, then it's not working. That part's not working. For instance, if you hit a stop to record and a stop, that will actually blink. And if it's solid, basically if you're solid across the board, you are solid. Everything is going well. Other than, that one on the end is the Wi-Fi. If that's not hooked up, that's no big deal because you're driving anyways. And most of the time, you're going to be only concerned with 2 buttons. There is the orange one basically with a little triangle, and that's going to lock your clip. If you have an event that you're like, there's something that you want to record that just happened, then you're just going to hit that. It's going to lock. It's going to tell you. You'll definitely have no doubt that it's working. And there is the microphone button. If you want to turn the audio on or off, then you can use that. Also with this 139, there is an AV. There's an auxiliary in. You can hook an external microphone to this dash camera even. So that's a pretty big bonus. Maybe you're narrating a trip or something like that. You can actually do that. Also, Another option you can get, this little wireless Bluetooth remote control. This could do the same as locking those clips or turning that audio on or off as well. Now, speaking of audio, let's hear what it sounds like with the built-in microphone of the A139. This app works really, really well. It's very, very quick, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but we are streaming it live right now. It's coming straight on here while it's recording. I can go and I can switch cameras. There is my front. Look at this. I'm in a Tesla sandwich here. Here's my in-cabin. Hello. And there is another Model 3. They're all over the place, these Teslas. But I can switch cameras or have all three at once. I can take a snapshot, just like a little still there. And if I want to go and review the footage, I do have to stop recording. If I stop right now, you won't see it anymore. But I will just hit stop. You just saw that I went and downloaded a clip. I can view it, have to stop anyways. It was very, very quick, 130 some odd megs in that quick. That was real time. So this is one of the fastest apps. Remember, this is 2.4 or 5G connectivity. It connects very, very easily. So yeah, I'm impressed with this app for sure. And to be able to download like this, most of the time I don't like these apps or whatever, but I would actually use this one because it's way easier to use and it's very, very quick. The in-cabin camera also has IR LED lamps in them. Now there is a setting where you can turn those on, off, or on auto. I normally just leave it on auto, and some of these examples here you'll see it might be a little bit grainy a little bit, but it's really, really dark in this situation there. But yeah, that's a good example for you to have a look at. Overall, I love the front sensor. That's STARVIS 2 really does make a huge difference. Like if you have any type of daylight, for sure, while we're moving, here's a couple things, let's couple shots that I'll just basically pause on a clip, and you can easily make out, and it's quite sharp, the license plates in these images here. The rear, not as clear. That has to do, in this instance though, because of the positioning and the tint of the window of this Outlander that I'm driving right now. But a nice thing about this camera as well is that you can adjust the exposure on all three cameras. So that's a big bonus. Sometimes you don't want to just a global setting where, hey, I just want to bump it up +1 for exposure for all of it, because sometimes it's not necessary. I might just want to bump up that rear because it has to go through that tinted glass, and normally it's a little bit dark. I might want to bump it up a little bit more. Just be careful. Don't bump it up too much, because anytime you add gain, you run the risk of adding noise as well. The 139 has a parking mode, as we mentioned. It's great because you can run 3 cameras, and it's basically giving you a 360 coverage of your vehicle. I have it set to motion. Now, if you don't have a larger memory card in there, just beware that it is recording 3 feeds of high definition or 4K video, and it's going to take up a lot of room on that card depending on what size you have. So be aware of that. I want to share some more nighttime footage with you because I think it's pretty impressive with this brand new Sony Starves 2 sensor. Now, in the settings, there is an HDR setting, so that means high dynamic range, and with that, it basically takes all the highs and the lows, so the real bright stuff, like headlights and stuff, and all the real dark, shadowy stuff, and it blends them together, evens it out, so you get a better balanced picture. Have a look. So final thoughts of the A139 Pro. I'm very, very impressed. Actually, more impressed than I thought I was, because as I mentioned, I normally like dash cameras with screens. This one not having a screen, It was zero issue at all. You know, once it was mounted, you can actually use that app, and this is probably the best and quickest app that I was able to actually use on any dash camera. Normally, I'm not a big fan of apps because they seem slow. This one, easy to actually go and watch the video for your clips, easy to download, quick with that 5G as well, very, very fast. The picture quality with that new STARVIS 2 sensor and the super night vision even for the front camera, so clear, true 4K in the front, 1080p for the in-cabin, 1080p for the rear. You know, you're fully covered, and yeah, it's a really no frills, easy to use dash camera. So yeah, I would actually highly recommend it. If you want a 4K camera, have a look at this 139 Pro. And I will leave a link in the description there if you are interested in purchasing one of these, right down there. That's it for today's review. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. We'll see you on the next Everyday Review. Cheers.